Hey, hey.
Hey, listeners. Welcome to another exciting episode of Rebel Sage Perspectives. I'm Rudy.
And
Th-
I am
This
Michelle.
is Michelle. And today we have probably one of the most incredible talents and one of the hardest workers I've ever met, um, ever. A fine actor, producer, director, Eddie Ruiz. Welcome,
What's
Eddie.
going on? How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
So excited to be here and to have this artist talk, man.
Well, nobody's really interested in all the glitz and glamour anymore. It really comes down to connections with people, and
Right.
that's what we're here for.
See, that's what's dope though, because that's really where I'm at in my career. So I'm happy that these are the conversations we're having, and it's about humanity, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Totally.
absolutely. Now, I wanted just to kind of get things going. If you could just kind of tell our listeners briefly your background and where you're from, how you got into the craft.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm born and raised in LA, which is already unique, right? So I'm like
Psst, psst.
an actor from I grew up in Boyle Heights, California, right?
Oh,
And was not introduced to the arts at all in my community. It wasn't I grew up playing sports. And so I ended up playing sports up until about college ball.
So,
And
what
through
was your
there,
sport of choice?
it was a baseball and soccer. And if I
Oh,
had to choose one, it was soccer, right? So
yeah.
that was my favorite. And so I think a lot of people don't know that if you play baseball, you had to end up taking some dance classes, like ballet and other classes that we were forced to do, and for a variety of reasons. And so what happened was just one thing led to another, where a teacher was like, "Yo, um, we will. Would you like to be in our play? We need a Latino."
all
It's
right.
really how it happened. And
Boyle Heights. It was hard to find one.
yeah, when I guess when you're in the OC at that time, I guess it was. They're like, oh, there's one right there.
Right there. And he can dance.
Get him before he leaves. Yeah. Um, no, so yeah, so then that kind of happened, and to be honest, I was always interested in entertaining. Like I've always had this, like I was real like with sports, like it was kind of a natural ability, so I did it due to that. I didn't know if I loved it. But then once I got into acting, I was like, this is what I love. Like it was just like a different thing. And then just the ability from the training is what I give it to. So from to keep on going away, how I got into it was once I got introduced to that, I met an amazing professor named Evelyn Case, and she just guided me through everything. And then I met an acting coach named Jolene Adams in Hollywood. And next thing you know, I was being directed by Fred Savage on That's So Raven. So like it happened really
Wow.
fast. And then I fell in love with the stage. And one of the main reasons why I fell in love with that was because it was the first time I actually read a book from beginning to end, because you had to, right? A
Right.
play.
Right.
And so then I started working for Tony Plana and his theater company, right? Guano Tony Plana, like Three Amigos. I mean, he's done everything. So I started working for his company, East LA Classic. And then I told him, I said, yo, dude, pretty much I want to be you. Like you're a working actor that works but isn't in the spotlight. How can I do what you're doing? And so he said, I'm gonna tell you one way: go study abroad at a great school. So I'm like, a kid from Boyle Heights. I'm like, yeah, right. What are the chances of that happening? Right?
Right.
No support, no financial like help. So I was like, but then I thought to myself as a joke, I'm gonna apply to the Central School of Speech and Drama, right? Because I did research of being like, which actors do I love and love their work that can take me there? And so Gael Garcia went there, and then I saw Judi Dench went there, Laurence Olivier and all these amazing artists that I look up to. And so next thing you know, I apply, and like I'm telling you, when it showed up, it was like as if a child showed up, right? My first child.
Right.
Like, hey, we actually
The
have
acting
selected.
stork came by.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like this weird, like a kid from Boyle Heights seeing a letter from London was like, oh my goodness, here's gold, right?
Right.
And so it was the invitation to audition. And so I went and I auditioned and flew for the first time ever overseas in my
Wow.
life. And you know, like saved up money, did everything, went, did it, did the audition, felt good about it, came back. And then next thing you know, I got in, right? Like I got the letter being like, you're in. And then from there, I think my confidence from that point on just completely changed. Like there was this moment in my life that I said, if I got into the Central School of Speech and Drama, 20 students with this amazing class that I'm in, like this says something. And so from there, I started understanding my worth. And that's when I came back with a very like a strong mentality of like, these are the stories I want to tell. These are the things I want to do. Because what I learned, the biggest transition that I had in London that really shaped me as an artist was like that there's actually people who care about you. And the reason why that happened is because I came from a neighborhood of you trust nobody.
Yeah.
No one is here to help you. And what I got from this out in London was we are here to support you as artists and we're all in it together. So that's kind of where I came from when I stepped into the arts and the acting world coming back from Hollywood. But also, here's a great story that I don't even know if you know this, Rudy. But so when I was in London, this is a great story. When I was in London, I our final presentation is we showcase for agents, managers, and casting directors. But I was like, yo, dude, I don't care about this. I'm going back to the US. So you all have to be stressed and I'm just gonna enjoy this last week, right?
Right, right.
I did. Presented all of our projects. Everyone saw it. I book a flight. And I booked this flight because I have no money. Keep in mind, in London, I'm living off of like noodles and water and bread. So if you, what I learned is that if you go 5 o'clock and become best friends with the bread makers over in London on Heathrow, they will help you. So they like literally waited for me every time at 5 because it was sell out because it was fresh bread, right? So every time it was over, like they were like, it's done, like there's no more. So they saw me come in all the time that they would put a bread aside for me and be like, we have your loaf of bread waiting for you, right?
Nice.
That's awesome.
So anyway, sidetrack with that. In London, I was carefree, ready to fly back. I was poor, and I was like, I'm going back home. Like I can't afford living in this flat anymore. So I let them all enjoy it. I'm thinking like I'm going like next flight. I flew out the day right after like our graduation, right? Because we had two graduations, but like our final project is considered our first graduation. So I flew home, go home, and what happens is I get an email from my professor. Hey, there's so and so looking for you, who is Celestia Fox, who is like one of the major like casting directors for Academy Award winning films like Beowulf. This, but she thought it was like just an agent that wanted to see me. So now keep in mind, I'm in LA, like not thinking anything happened because I didn't care about it, right? I didn't network, I didn't do nothing. So then I pick up the phone and I'm like, well, I'm gonna call just because I'm curious to see like, you know, what they wanted. Yeah. So I call, and of course I'm up like, you know, the time difference. I'm up like at 7, whatever, or 4 in the morning. And I call and she answers. She's like, yeah, this is Celestia Fox. And I say, hi, this is Eddie Ruiz, and I'm just calling to know what's going on. Yeah. And so she's like, oh, Eddie, are you still in London? And I said, no, Celestia, I'm actually in LA. She says, oh my goodness, my assistant saw you in the showcase and we wanted to book you and fly you to Hungary today for a new Disney film, the Nutcracker.
Nice.
And in my mind, I'm like, I could be there tomorrow, right? Like, so she's like, oh, Eddie, I'm so sorry, but we needed this thing start shooting now, and we need you there
yesterday.
Now, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you know, and then you got the infamous words, maybe next time. And I was like, that next time. So that was my introduction to the showbiz, right? And I remember telling my father this story, and I think the best thing my dad ever told me was, if it happened then, it'll happen again. So just keep going. So
I
yes,
love that.
yeah. So that's like my journey of how I got to like from training to a professional actor. But I'm not your story of like I grew up in the arts. But I did feel like I grew up entertaining because people would come and watch my work as an athlete. Like I had people show up just to watch me. So I've always
Right.
felt like I had that obligation and that story to tell. But then that wasn't the story I wanted to tell.
Well,
Yeah.
when it comes to entertaining, it's that, that Hollywood they've got
Mhm.
it, and in any kind of entertainment, whether it's sports, like like you did as a young man, or art or music or whatever. When you have that attraction, and then that underlying love and drive for it, it shines, and people like to watch that. People get mesmerized.
Yeah,
And
and I think as you say that, Rudy, sorry to cut you off, is that what I love about it is the people you meet. That's what I've been fascinated for me, right? Like because you meet people from all walks of life in every project you do.
yeah,
And as you're
Right.
saying that, it just reminds me of like how like cultured I become by being open and receptive to all my cast members and crew members and everyone that is, who, whatever project you're working, whether film, TV, theater, is that you meet all these individuals and you're just like your story is so unique and so dope, and I'm so happy I had this conversation with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, it's almost like everything I've ever done. It's almost like the entire of humanity shrinks down to this one microcosm, and you're all there serving this purpose, and you're all there sharing your accumulative experiences.
Hmm.
It's almost, it's like shrinking the world down to just so you could touch everybody.
Right.
There's not an experience like it.
No, and I had to agree with that. I think we were having this conversation, like when we were talking, is like I think I've been fortunate to be in some amazing shows with amazing human beings. And so
Absolutely.
when I look back at what you're saying, I think about the show that where we met, right, on the wonderful ice cream suit.
Yes.
I just look back at that show and it's like I mean it with with all my heart. Like it was one of the best shows and the best individuals that I got to collaborate with. We were such a family from the beginning,
Yeah.
and I think that had a lot to do with the story we were telling. That's why,
Yeah, yeah,
you
and
know.
really, and the perspective of the storyteller. I mean, Ray was talking
Mhm.
about his life, basically. Uh oh, did you froze on me, Eddie?
Right.
Oh,
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 there you are.
there he is.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
We
Sorry.
got one
Yeah.
of we got
Yeah.
one
No,
of these
Ray.
over.
Ray. Yeah. Exactly. Ray was talking about his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, that's great. No, yeah, that's exactly what it was. But he was talking about his life, but he was also talking about the appreciation, right,
Yeah.
of the individual that gave him the opportunity when he was at his lowest, which happened to be this interaction in this community with all these underrepresented communities, right? Which in this case was the Latinos. These are all
Right.
characters on people he actually knows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was also what was very special about that show and the storytelling part of it. I remember Alan Hub. So I did Fahrenheit 451 before we did that one, right?
Yes. That. Yeah.
And I remember Alan Hub coming up to me and saying he called me and said, and Alan Hub was a director who ran the Pandemonium Theater Company for what's his name
For Ray.
For Ray
Yeah.
Bradbury. And and so I worked for him. We had a long run of that, and that was like my early years in the theater. So I'm playing like firefighter number 2 or something, right? So like I had like one line, but it's running forever, and I quit because I booked something else, and also I was tired of it. To be honest, I'm like, how long am I gonna play firefighter number 2, right? This thing is
With one
going
line.
on. Yeah, yeah. But I remember quitting, and then also like as soon as I quit, it was a 99 seat. As soon as I quit, it ran so long that they actually had to back pay all the actors because it became an actual AEA run, even though it was 99 seat. And I was like, man, right when I left, they all got like this huge pay, like right. And at that point, right, which a lot of people don't know, is like getting into the unions was so difficult. I think
Yeah.
it's different
So
now, right?
difficult.
And that was the
I don't know. I owe them money.
right, right. And so I'll never forget, like that was an opportunity to become part of the union. and because you were in that show, and I remember like, oh, what a missed opportunity. I could have been part of the union, right?
Right.
And it would have paid itself, because also they're really expensive, right? Like the
Yeah.
unions, and I'm talking about they're expensive for artists in their 20s. Like
Right,
you're
right,
like
right. Yeah,
you're
if you're
like
just right. If you're just starting and you're just getting it, and, and
yeah, yeah.
your 20 hours at the Gap don't cover very much.
No, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
I remember at that show, and then he called me and said, I have this opportunity and I want to know if you're in, because I would then move forward and cast other people. And I said, well, what does that mean? Like, you'll cast other people like me, is what he said. And he said, oh, other Latinos. And then he says, and Eddie, not only any other Latinos, but Latinos your height. And I'm thinking like, yo, this is cool.
Yeah, right.
Is there 5 of us out there? I'll never forget the feeling of seeing all 5 of us in the room, because
Yeah.
we are like all similar but different,
But
right?
different. And then you
Yeah,
put the suit on. Oh, remember the
it
suit?
was,
All of us in the suit.
it was so great. It was so, I mean, and that's what I mean. That was one of those moments that was like very, just reminded me what, like how much I love what I do, you know, because it was that commodity. It was like a manifestation, right? Like as an artist, that you were like, I could keep doing this with these type of groups. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there was productions where you're like, why am I doing this? You know?
Right.
But equally, that was one that definitely I look back at, and as you know, we had a successful run. We sold out all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
We had people that even tried to get it extended even after, you know, and then everyone kind of went their own way by that point. So yeah, I mean, those are the times that I think we're very lucky, and I agree.
Yeah. That's
To be doing
actually
it.
the wonderful ice cream suit was probably the nail in the coffin for me as far as falling in love with acting and that
Yeah.
whole process and doing that kind of entertainment.
Mhm.
That was and like you said, I could have done that. I could still be doing that show right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And that's what I think also, like, I think about when you guys reached out to me for this, just like
yeah.
reconnecting with all the guys, like being like, yo, Rudy, call me. And when he's doing a podcast, like, first of all, we were so happy for you. But then second of all, we're like, oh my God, we have reunited with a purpose. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like here
Exactly.
we are again.
Yeah.
We were thinking like, what is Rudy really trying to do? Right? Like, is he trying
Right.
to bring us
Yeah.
back? Yeah.
Oh no, believe me, I've been grilling this one right here next to me for at least the last 20 minutes before we got on, wondering what kind of sneaky shit you tried to do behind my back with my
Oh my
co-star to
goodness.
try and have some fun with me.
Yeah, and I
Because
was like,
you were the King Joker on the set, I remember.
and
Daniel tried, but you topped him every time.
Yeah, yeah.
seriously, Eddie, I this morning when I woke up, I was like, I really want to pull a joke on Rudy. And I was like, I wonder if Eddie would be down for that. And
Ah,
then it was really early. And I was like, he's gonna be like, oh my goodness, Central Time Zone, leave me alone. But so obviously I didn't call you and we're not gonna do that. But I might save that for him with somebody else.
yeah, I
But
think
I
I
was
think it'll
like,
be a
I don't
great
know. Should I call him? Should I not? And he's like, you should have called him.
any time for a prank. I am
Yeah.
all in 100%.
Dang
You
it. I
know,
missed a great opportunity.
because I think one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is how much fun you have on sets and backstage. Like I know we present ourselves and come in and do the work so professionally, right? And no matter what show you're doing or film, but behind like closed doors and everything, I mean, it's just so much fun at the like what we get paid to do is kind of crazy sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just you just have this great vibe with when you're vibing with people, like you just have so much fun. And I'll never forget, like I shot a film in Ensenada in Mexico with a feature film, and I was shooting there, like we shot for 2 weeks and I shot for 3 days. And I'll never forget pulling a prank on them where I thought, okay, I'm leaving tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I have finished shooting and they send me back to the room. But then the producer was like, hey, Eddie, I'm going to go buy some food. Do you mind coming with me? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So then I ended up back on set. And this is not even me pre-planning, Rudy. This is just like me, like, I have an opportunity here, right?
Right.
So, and I'm thinking we're also in Mexico and Ensenada, so it's believable what I'm about to do. So,
Oh, goodness.
so we show back, we go back to the set, and then the director's like, "Oh, Eddie, you're back. Like I thought you were gonna go back to your room." I was like, "Oh, dude, they haven't told you guys. Everything got stolen. All of our rooms are empty." And and they all look at me like, "Are you kidding?" I said, "No, man." And luckily, the first AD, her name was Barbie. Went by Barbie. She said she like looks at me and she goes, "Oh, Eddie's totally playing a prank." So then, but she was the only one that understood it, but she went along with it. She's like, "Oh no," like, "Yeah, my phone's ringing." So she acted like someone called her. I said, "Yeah, there's like tape everywhere. I don't know what happened." But then unfortunately what happened, we had to tell them because the two grips were actually started arguing with each other, where one of them was like, "I told you to close the sliding door." We're in Mexico.
Of course, the shit that you started gets a fight going too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
Right.
then we were like,
You
"Yo,
guys just trying to
no."
work.
Yeah, yeah. Like, no, I actually went to go pick up the food for y'all. Like, we're good. Everything's back in the room. Yeah. I love that you get to have those kind of moments because I think the work that we do at the end of the day is really hard though also. So like when you have those type of moments, we get to play pranks and people go along with it and we all have a good time. It's so important. It's so important
It
on
is
sets. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you have coming up? What's in the works?
Well, I'm actually very lucky that he posted it so I could kind of talk about it. So I'm working on a new Apple series with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool.
yeah, so he has a new show. It's funny because they gave us a working title, and then I'm like, oh, and I think it's called let me get you the exact name. I think it's Mr. Connor. Is that what I believe it is? It's an
Uh,
Apple series. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, Mr. Corman. Mr. Corman is what it's
Mr.
called.
Corman.
Mr. Corman. So that'll be an Apple series that I got to work on right before the pandemic hit, right? And we were paused. So I'm really looking forward to that series. It's a really fun part, and he's just wonderful to work with, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like everything that he represents that you see, because he's huge on online virtually with
Yeah.
a lot of like community and ensemble building for artists. He's exactly that. He's exactly that. He wrote it, he directed it, and he's starring in it, and he's obviously producing it. Yeah.
that's
So I
cool.
have that going on right now. And then my work, what I think gets missed a lot also is I work a lot on the stage. So I'm currently working and workshopping a new piece with Luis Alfaro, who's like a MacArthur Grant winner. And he's adapted all the Greeks, into a Latino like
Really?
yeah. So he's adapted them all into like Boyle Heights, pretty much like the Latino
Okay.
communities. And so he's taken, for example, I recently did with CTG that was streaming for about during the pandemic. We actually did this. We did Mojada. Sorry. The one I did was they did Oedipus, they did Mojada, and then I played Orestes in Oedipus, not Oedipus the king. God, why am I blanking? It's the Mojada, Oedipus. Let me get the name for you right now. I'm trying to think of the actual name. But anyway, so CTG did this trilogy, and they hired all these actors to do like six like distance, right? Like COVID guidelines,
Okay.
um, reading, and we ended up doing this piece. So, anyways, with him, he's adapting a new play, The House of Bernarda Alba, into an all male cast. And
Okay.
so I was doing tons of stage working with CTG on different productions. And then I finished with Mujeres del Mar, which was directed by Diane Rodriguez, who recently passed, unfortunately, but she was the associate artistic director of the Mark Taper of CTG, pretty much
Yeah.
under Michael Ritchie. And so this was the first piece that she directed under her own company. And then from there, I started workshopping this piece with Louise. And so as far as theater, like I was making a living to theater like for the past 2 years. That's what I've been doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, as an actor in Hollywood, that's an accomplishment on its own.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it started opening doors. I mean, for example, I know I can't say the title right now or anything, but I'm in conversations for a major picture right now for
Nice.
Cool.
yeah. Yeah. And so my career has been at this point has it feels sophisticated. That's like the word I'll
Yeah.
use. And the reason why I say that is because I'm really booking these really like substantial roles, but equally I'm looking for them. So like it's what I want to be doing. It's the
Right.
stories that I want to be telling, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aiming at the work you want, for
Yeah.
sure.
And that it's there, especially today,
Right, right.
So, have you done any producer work?
Yes, I have. I have a love-hate relationship with it. um
Yeah, I mean, I
All
heard.
producers do.
Yes, don't we though? I heard from Rudy here that you want my job today, like you want to produce this for me. So I mean,
well,
really, I didn't get the lines from Rudy, but I can play along. I can improv pretty well. Ask
I
Joaquin.
didn't pass along the line reading. Sorry, Eddie.
no, he did tell me, just please watch out for her. Like, see if you could do a better job. And I was like, yeah, I'll be watching.
Hey, man, why you gotta say shit like that?
That's okay.
I'm
That's
sitting
okay.
right here next to her.
That's okay. You'll get him stabbed in his sleep one night, but that's cool with
Cabrón.
me. Whatever.
No, yeah. Producing has
I know
been
where you
like,
live.
yeah, exactly right.
I should have been
Rudy
a
tells me
Latina.
everything. Oh,
She is a little Latina. There's a
I
little
know,
bit of
right?
she's from Texas. You know how they are.
I love it. Yeah, exactly, right. No, producing has been a challenge of its own. In I haven't produced in 3 years. Like, and the reason why is because I realized I started producing stories for people that, like, I started producing stories that I didn't want to tell as well. So what I started seeing was my natural ability to be able to produce by being in the business and understanding budget, right? And
Sure.
understanding, I build a lot of relationships throughout my career. And one
I
thing
believe that.
that I've, yeah, one thing that I've always been adamant about and conscious of is making sure that I don't care whether you're a star or you're the extra, that you greet everyone and treat everyone the exact same way. Everyone deserves the same value, right?
Yes, it's good to
And
be a good human.
yeah, and through that, I just noticed that I was surrounded by all these artists that had my back. So when I made a phone call, like I remember shooting a pilot for NBC WB with Michael Patrick King, and his assistant got back to me on set and said, "Hey Eddie, like I just love your vibe. Like, can we meet after and talk about what's next for you? And I can pitch you some stuff that I'm doing." So when I see that happening, I'm telling myself, what I'm doing is right. So keep that up, right?
Yeah.
So with producing, that's the thing that you're really dealing with, right? With personalities. And you're
Yes.
also trying to deal with reliable people, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when you know who really means I got your back.
Yeah,
Right.
like
And
people who show up for test calls.
right, exactly. When when they check their emails, my bad. That's probably also a good rule number one for producers. Check your emails. Yeah.
Absolutely.
To my defense, blame it. Wow, my wife. I mean, trust me, my wife does our scheduling. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for her, honestly, my life's a mess.
You'd be
But
lost.
um, but that's also because I have a lot going on. Like in
Sure.
in my defense. But um, but yeah, in producing, like you're dealing with all these personalities, and that's what I learned quickly. How can you create the safe space for actors? Because at the end of the day, you always want to make it feel like everything's going perfect so they could perform to their best ability, right?
Sure.
And I think for me, it was what I learned quickly was like, oh, you don't care about that. Some of your producers, you care about the finance and you care about your own
Yeah.
Yeah.
future like your career path and what is really important to you is so different, right? And so I saw all that, and as a producer, I was successful at it. Like the three films that I got to produce all were multi. So so people ask me if are you guys there? Did it freeze again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Oh, no.
Oh, now you sound like you're doing the robot dance. Now this is actually what we're seeing right now could be a pretty good headshot. Oh,
Oh, there. Well, you're muted. You're
you're muted.
muted.
Sorry,
Yay.
I changed the wireless browser. Look at
Oh,
me, I have two. Yeah. I mean the internet wireless.
yes.
Um sorry, so what I was saying in regards to the producing was I so I was successful at it. I all the other films that I did all the first of all they all got distribution deals. And
Oh,
secondly, they all won they're multi-winning films, right? But I realized I wasn't happy though. Like I was just not happy with this. Mad Dogging would be the only one that I'm like, that's the closest to my to the storytelling I want to be a part of. But equally, there were some experiences in there that I felt weren't weren't me, if that makes any sense.
right,
Yeah.
right.
You know? And I think by that, and I don't want to get too much into that because I love the director, I love the producer that I worked with, and we worked out the things that I was dealing with while doing that film. And we're great now, and the film is so successful that it launched David Castaneda, right? Like one of my buddies who's on the Umbrella Academy now. He
Right.
plays Diego, right? So like I've been a part of that, but producing then what I started, I went from like, and it was crazy because I went from a short film to a feature film of like $500,000 to then another short film to then now working just with Janine Salinas, who's like my sister, who writes on Riverdale, right? And
Right. Okay.
and so that's like the one person that if she called me like even today and like, yo, I need you right now because I need to do this or pitch this, whatever. Like I would drop whatever I'm doing and be like, I'm gonna be there, right? Within reason, obviously. I'm
Right,
here.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so producing what I started learning was like, not only now is it about being a good person, but it's about who's good and has a purpose. That's what
Right.
I realized so quickly. Like it's one thing to be a good person, but it's another thing to have purpose. And that purpose for me, which was important at the end of the day, I don't care what we talked about pre-filming, and I don't care what we talked about filming. At the end of the day, what you choose to chop up and tell on that screen is what represents my name.
True.
And that's what was important to me. Like that's not like there's like those moments where you're like, we talked about this moment and I don't agree with that moment. And we agreed on a different like artistic viewpoint of it, right? A point of view. And it still kind of stayed. And it feels like an insult, right? And it feels like an insult when you're coming to me as an advisor to keep certain stories, in my case, growing up in the hood, growing up in Boyle Heights, and keeping things authentic. Like you asked me for that, but you still went for the more stereotype, and it's like, and it's obvious and it's insulting, you know.
Yeah.
But then I noticed that I didn't have control of that, so that's when I realized, like as a producer, I started like I'll never forget in Talkback at a film festival when I realized like, is this really like what's next for me? Um, I had this we did it we answered questions about the film and about the process, and then they said, okay, this individual came up to me after and he said, I love everything you said up there, but what's your story? You talked about that story in a very like uh like objective way, right? But what is your story subjectively? Like what you have lived? That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And I
Where's your
said,
heart?
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I said, well, can you expand on that by what you're looking for too? Because this man was kind of like, he was like multi-ethnic. I couldn't tell whether he was Caucasian or Latino, right? And I didn't want to make any assumptions at that time, but I wanted to know for him as a human, why are you also asking me that and putting me on the spot? Like, what are you also looking for? What's your
Yeah,
purpose?
yeah. What lens are you looking through and asking your
Yeah,
question? What's the perspective you're asking your question
yeah.
from? Yeah, yeah,
And
Yeah.
so, because I wanted to know, like, are you trying to exploit me because you see that I have some authenticity and I'm able to story tell? Therefore, let me grab him and quote unquote discover him, right? Because I've heard
right.
that a lot in my career. I
Yeah, yeah.
discovered you, and I'm like I mean, Rudy knows. I've like we both have been doing this for 10 years. There's no discovery. Like,
No, there's no
we've
Yeah,
been
we're
discovery.
doing this
past
for a
that.
long.
I
Yeah,
discovered
yeah,
myself when I was 8 years old.
You can't put me back in the box. Thank you.
yeah. And so it really took me to this place of reflection after that question. And then, I mean, it was just kind of this weird thing that was happening in my life. Then 2 weeks later, I get an email from the Sundance Institute. And once again, these are things that I'm not aware of, right? I get an email from an amazing individual named Colin, who I'm still friends with, and he says, "Hey Eddie, your name keeps coming up. Like, do you have any scripts?" And I realized at that point, like, I was so caught up in telling all these other people's stories, in doing everything from like an outsider and not having anything substantial from my voice. And all these opportunities came about and I wasn't prepared. So that's when I realized, and then going back to the story in what Celestia Fox said, right? Like, oh, maybe next time. That those are missed opportunities.
Yeah.
That
Right.
those individuals, and then when I did my research and found out who he was, I found out he was from Disney, right? I found out he's been like executive producing for so long, the individual that came up to me. And so you're just like, oh man, again, another missed opportunity. If I would have just stayed in London a week longer, if I would have just had a concept, right? You're starting to think all these things. And so that's when I stepped back as a producer. And what I thought to myself, I'm not producing again until I have a project ready from my end. So when people say, hey man, I think what you're doing is special. What do you got? I can be like, here you go. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at as far as producing in regards to doing the things. But I've had a great time doing it, great like learning experience. And I'm self-taught with that too. All YouTube, man.
Oh,
I created call
Hey,
sheets.
that's how I learned to tie this tie.
Yeah. See, there you go.
I'm
Perfect.
feeling very
Yeah.
proud of myself.
Yeah. I mean, you should. It's a beautiful tie.
yeah.
Looks perfect.
Thanks, man.
Eddie, you know what? I knew stuff about you before, um, but your journey so far, and as when you're done with us here, you're going to be right back on that path. Um, but man, what a beautiful shot, what a beautiful experience you're having, and we really appreciate that you would come on our show and share it with our listeners.
Absolutely.
We
It
really do
really has
appreciate
been a
it.
pleasure to speak with you and get to meet somebody else from my co-host acting
Yeah,
days
I'm
in the
surprised you didn't
theater.
get. Actually, we'll have to have you on again so she can grill you about me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
No,
have his
no,
email.
yeah, I exactly. I have both of your emails now. Now that I checked them, yeah, yeah,
right.
Never mind,
no,
I'll text you, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I deeply appreciate it. I think these stories and what you guys are doing. Not what I love about your guys' concept, just so you know, and I'm so happy for what your future is giving a platform and a voice to artists, like I said, that have been doing it for a long time, but quote unquote ain't celebrities, right? Because it's also about like, what is that credibility? What does that mean, right? To be an artist. And we have to honor the people that sometimes work 2, 3 jobs to follow their passion and their dream.
right.
Sure.
Like there's like a tenacity there, right? That an individual lives with, to be like, I'm going to keep going, like,
Yep.
and then also like we miss people and we don't give them the platform on people who, for like myself, right, that has like 50 credits just film and TV, and but no one, no, like it, I'm not this huge celebrity, right? Like I make a living doing what I do in so many ways, in the field, whether it's theater or film or TV. But like we just never get to know those people, right? Like they go through the business, and how often do you hear about them? And then you're
Right.
just like, and they left
Right.
a stamp on it, right? And like they help. And I'm a character actor, so I know what it feels like to be like, hey, you got this one line,
Right.
gonna move the plot forward, and then you're dead,
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah. You're
like
probably
so
only going to be there for about 2 hours, but they are going to
Man,
pay you full rate for the day.
I
right,
had a
right,
lot of those roles in the theater, like local theater and stuff.
yeah,
In in one show, I played like a soldier, a dead guy, and some other role. But like I ended up dead. You know,
yeah,
they kept me
yeah.
there for the whole show. I was in different. Oh, I was a guard. That was
You were
it.
that good. You were that good.
Yeah,
That's what it
I had
was.
3 roles. They needed
Yeah,
me to fill the holes, and I did a good job of filling the holes.
right.
Um,
I would have rather that. Everything I've ever done on a stage, I've been forced to be the star.
Aw, poor you.
I mean, with that face, I mean, it
Sad
makes sense. It makes
Right,
sense,
story.
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sad
Yeah.
story.
When you say that, there's a beautiful episode that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia does about an extra that the character of Dee plays, and she's gonna be the best extra possible. And
Right.
she's playing like the dying person, like on a zombie. And she just like, I'm gonna get my screen time. And that's what it
Right.
reminds me of when we talk about these small roles, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the ruin commercial. Like one commercial, the ruin commercial. I mean, like, they gotta see your face for at least a couple seconds.
Right, right,
So
right,
like,
right,
if
Right.
you're in a car, yo, listen, even though they don't tell you, just
press your
shift
face
to
up
the
against the
right,
glass just a little
shift
bit.
to the right, and get that residual money.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
So it's all those little tricks, right, of what we're talking about. Like if I'm gonna be that extra on that stage, I'm gonna come right here because there's a gap and the
Right,
audience
right,
can see
right.
me. Cause yeah,
And
because
I know how to look just left of camera.
exactly, right. I'm gonna make this day worthly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. No, so yeah, I have to say I thank you guys for this, and I think that what you guys are doing is very cool. I also love that, I mean, I see the people that you guys are interviewing, and some of them are my friends, like Jorge, right?
Yeah.
Obviously Joaquin, who we worked with together, and whoever else you decide to have
Oh,
from the
they're
wheel.
all coming. Once I get the guys, then I think I'm probably going to Toro.
Oh man, just wait. Daniel is amazing. And Daniel and I are very close. Yeah, but
Oh boy.
Yeah.
yeah. He's maybe that was the closest to typecasting
Right, right.
for
Yeah.
our show.
Hey,
Yeah.
like the first run, wasn't he like purposefully not bathing?
Pretty much. He
Yeah,
he
he was
came from
gross. He was
that
gross. He was and he farting all over the place.
yeah.
It was pretty. Okay. Hey, look.
that-
Well, that's a story for
Okay.
another show. Eddie,
yeah.
Yeah.
man, hey,
On
man,
Yeah.
that
thanks for being
note,
on, man.
thank
No,
you.
of course, you guys. Well, thank you so much. You guys have I mean, best of luck with this show,
Yeah.
and
Thank
have
you
a
so
good
much.
rest of your day.
All
Yeah.
right.
You
Best of
too.
luck with you. Keep walking the walk and talking the talk. I love you, man. Be good.
Me too. I love you too. Nice to meet you. Bye,
You too.
everyone.
Bye bye.